Hello everyone, Tia from the editing room here, just to give you a proper warning, considering I don't believe we were sufficiently potentially clear enough in the intro. First of all, photosensitive warning, because this movie possesses a lot of sequences with flashing lights. They're not technically everywhere, but they are present and in quantities that are more than me and Pedro remembered. So if you actually are susceptible to that, like Shire for example, this is your turn away point because unfortunately there isn't much. And from what we checked, even Amazon Prime doesn't do much favors when it comes to the quality of a movie. Second, and more important one, this is a movie from the 60s based on a French comic, from even before, which means a very unfortunate character design, especially from people, from Africa. This was already a thing in previous titles when it came to the pirates, but unfortunately here is exacerbated, and a lot of times the camera loves to focus. It's not like the second season of Kimba the White Lion, but it's still very icky. So if it turns you off that much, this is your other turning off point. It is worth noting that from all of us, even if we enjoy the movie and the story as a whole, we don't condone, justify, or find okay this character design. Take that in consideration for our judgments. Anyway, if you're still here despite this, please enjoy the rest of the movie. 14 liters of Indian ink, 30 brushes, 62 soft pencils, 1 hard pencil, 27 erasers, 1984 sheets of paper, 16 typewriter ribbons, 2 typewriters, and 366 pints of beer went into the creation of the source material of this. I'm talking
Yes.
about possibly the most famous of the Asterix stories, which is Asterix and Cleopatra. Well, technically, not the. Technically, it's not the first time where Asterix and Obelix travel to a foreign country to save their problems. Um, it is definitely the most famous, and probably for a couple of different reasons. Historically, Caesar and Cleopatra's romance is very famous. They did a shitload of movies based on that. So of course, Goscinny and Layers could not resist in jumping on that bandwagon. But this adaptation from 1968, this probably the more direct one compared to the one we looked last, Asterix the Gaul, is instead takes a couple of more liberties. I will describe them as it goes on, but one thing you need to learn first, which is probably the one time I need to use this disclaimer for all of these adaptations, well, and it will be another occasion, but still, is that dealing obviously with Egyptians and also this with another story that involves the pirates, uh, this potentially suffers from icky character design. I don't think in case with the Egyptian is as that prominent when in other cases where Goscinny and Lezo did. It was a consistent thing with basically most European comics, so basically don't blame just them. It was an entire cultural thing. But basically, this is your major warning. We can properly start before the proper start of a movie. Apparently, we discovered that both this and a couple of other movies, depends on the country, are on Amazon Prime. But in this case, start before the little start of a movie of a Franco-Belgian production. In 3, 2, 1, click.
So this is apparently the most famous of the Asterix
Yes.
stories. Was this
Yes.
like
Well,
the
apparently,
story? Was this like the story that set like sort of the pattern for how the formula would go more so?
Like I said, it was not the first time that Seriously Elvis did that, but this is basically a thing taken straight from the comic waves. Essentially, the the comic took a jab at the Hong Kong dub trope, as in dubs are completely not in sync at all, and applied to a comic format in saying that, oh, despite the balloons, they might not describe the accurate lip movement of the character. So, if anything, this was actually the excuse to actually see proper in action.
when the film began, I love how it said exotic music on the subtitles.
I think the team is basically the same of the previous movies, also director, composers, and even voice actors for the English version. Yeah, the idea is that the dub was done in the 2000. Sorry, in the time the movie takes place. So that's the joke they do.
So this scene was made exclusively for the English version.
No, that's the joke, Jova. It was also in the comic, even though the media of the comic makes no sense to have that joke. The entire idea behind that joke is the surreal of its presence.
Cute.
And this is why I'm.
It is
This is why I'm
surprisingly
watching.
very applicable.
With subs, yes.
Yeah. I've got. I'm watching on Amazon
here's the
Prime.
Here's the
music,
thing.
Yeah, basically, I've got it on Amazon Prime, which has English audio and thankfully subtitles. But the actual credits in the movie are their original French.
Awesome, we just got to hear him sing. Good lord.
Yeah, it's just a taste, Jova.
Collaboration or scenario.
Ecco, lì pay anche al bravo return as Asterix and Obelix.
Oh, so they knew this film was in the works with the first film, I believe.
It might that teaser at the end might have been more of a case of the home video distribution, because at that point the movies were already made. So
I
they probably
wonder.
wanted to do that.
It could be that as well. Again, unless that was something included in the original release, in which case, I mean, don't get me wrong. Even with the big budget projects that are based off of the big names, I always do find it quite ballsy when literally the first installment gives essentially a big promise of a sequel. It's not to say it doesn't ever pay off. More often
If
than
anything,
not, it's
it was
meant
kind
to.
of a sort of a pay homage to how some old comics would have only a bit of a story, and they will deliberately give you a teaser of what was going next immediately, despite the fact that they had no guaranteed, for the sake of actually selling copies, because back then they had no certainties due to the war and economy and different stuff.
Mm-hmm. So are these like storyboards of scenes that will happen later in the movie?
Similar to the previous movie, just put part of the original art plus the storyboards. Anyway, we start in Alexandria, which is Faro, the lighthouse.
If I adds like deep detail to it bit by bit until we get the animated bit. Are we going to run into Khufu at any point?
No.
I mean, he was an actual pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that happened.
Walking.
So, if you don't know much about history, at this time the Romans were not governing the country. Cleopatra was firmly regaining a rule. But they were actually welcome to visit, particularly also because her relationship with Caesar. Although in the comics, it has always been presented like they act like an old married couple more than anything. It's cute.
Yeah.
From that angle, just then, from that bit where they were climbing up the stairs, they looked like walking potatoes.
I honestly thought that they had barrels over their heads for some reason.
They were actually blocks of stones.
Oh. Why were the blocks of... Oh, they were probably carrying that.
Yeah, building and stuff.
Because, yeah, the Egyptians loved to build. Cute. She made a giant Julius Caesar statue.
Let me check who Cleopatra is voiced by.
She sounds different from the voice actress from 12 Tasks.
Well, probably.
Probably a different one, yeah.
That turkey is going to go uneaten.
Ginger Hall. Never
And
heard
there's
of her.
Cleopatra with her beautiful nose.
Yeah. Caesar has a new voice actor, in this case Anthony Stewart, and as you can see, it's his more traditional design.
Again, it was as early as the second movie that they pretty much started shifting things heavily
More budget, I guess.
But also notice that his design is more in line with that of the original, whereas, in the first movie, he had black hair.
Why is she smashing all the vases?
She's very angry because the relationship with Caesar is not going as great, and Caesar believes that being the opportunistic dickhead that he is, he can take the opportunity to move things in his favor to the point of potentially conquering the
He
country.
tells Cleopatra that Egypt is in decay, and that people don't know how to, and they're no longer the great people, and she's going to prove it by building a palace in 3 months.
Yeah, a record. So she needs a particular architect for that. And the problem is that the responsibility is all on this one man.
Oh, the crocodiles get all the meat.
It's a sort of a running gag throughout the entire series of
it's Romans with the lions and the Egyptians with the crocodiles.
Yes.
Everybody has some kind of animal that you throw people at.
Oh, I know that. I was talking about more so. It's funny that I think that's a lion next door looks sad that he wouldn't get to eat it.
This is an adaptation kind of thing where the lion is used more for comedy relief. In the book, it really was just a standard lion.
Okay, I don't know if Amazon are playing along with the joke, but the subtitles seem to take out a lot of words of what the characters are actually saying.
Maybe they're in sync with the original French script or something similar to what Netflix does.
Yeah.
But there's no French language option on here.
I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, movie-wise, this is the introduction of Dogmatix, Obelix's dog. And yes, since in the village it's winter, the architect actually can visit them at that point. Another thing is that usually the impetus for having Asterix and Obelix going somewhere is because either someone knows the village or one of its inhabitants.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the architect knows Getafix.
Yep, they're both friends.
It's kind of like that special disbelief you get from stuff like Murder, She Wrote, where the main characters actually have a lot of friends all over the world. Tell you that this English dub is not doing him any favors. Even my country's dub sounded a bit better in terms of tone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it actually did this all come out after the last film we did.
Yes, 1
It
year
was
after.
literally the second one.
Yes. My issue is mainly the voice quality. Like, I don't remember the last film's voices being this muffled. It's like they're recording in a really, really cramped room in their house.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is somewhat.
Kind of
like
reminds me where Adam had to look up for the second Kiba series, and the official DVDs have shit quality, but uploads on YouTube manages to be pristine. No.
No. Shut up.
Oops.
And he died.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
So yeah, this time this is actually a bit unusual because Getafix normally doesn't go with in the journeys of Asterix and Obelix, so this is a special occasion.
Yeah, basically we've come a long way since the days where we had this as the Asterix theme, but we now with the new ones we have the new theme by the London Symphony Orchestra. So yeah, we've come a long way since these days.
It's a sort of a passage. If you remember, the 80s one had that pop rock band one that also was consistent.
Yeah. The composer for the most recent 2 movies is great. He came up with a really good symphonic theme for Asterix. I really like that one.
Wow, that was right. That was straight up Popeye. Oh wait, never mind. That's that guy speaking. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a moment I thought that.
So yeah, first of all, the pirates, although they do have actually a slightly different design in this than the in the comics.
It's that flashing. I know.
Yeah, I forgot actually how the lighting. I will just put a disclaimer.
Okay,
I'm not as
I'm not as bothered by flashing lights as Shiori, but it's still.
Well, they can genuinely be. Does Amazon have photosensitivity disclaimers at some point in descriptions or?
Well, okay, not on Amazon itself, and the film did have something at the beginning, but it's all in French. I can't understand it.
And as you can see, Asterix now has the vial that he usually carries.
Plus the animation, the special animation of getting excited by being drank the potion.
That being said, yeah, this is also another example of how this was one of the early books where the now iconic pirates that they always find are still not around.
That's the thing. Pedro. In the comics, they were actually the normal pirates, but for some reason in this adaptation, they changed their designs.
Okay, now the okay, that's the thing. Okay, now the vocal quality is just inconsistent. Some sound audible, others don't.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that this dub was made on the cheap by amateur people who didn't really know what they were doing.
That or there was difficulties.
Bug.
Also, no idea where the music went for this fight sequence. Like,
yeah, the composer is weirdly restrained in this one.
Maybe they were paying him by the notes.
It's the same one from the previous movie, Gerard Calvi. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same composer. So I don't. Oh, there you go.
I guess decided to just wake up.
And now the subtitles are so yeah, upbeat piano music continues.
I mean, that's what happened.
I mean, okay, to be fair, the subtitles I picked for this movie are for the hard of hearing, so
what a weak sheep if you can just dislodge the mast like that.
These are some flimsy ships.
Wow, they literally did a squawk while the parrot wasn't even talking. Like, come on, guys. This is literally now basically an old kung fu movie dub.
Not that bad yet.
Also, I wonder if it was potentially intentional from what Dinam shared at the beginning. Mind you, that might be tied to the English dub or not.
That could be. Like, this could have been a thing also in the original as well. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Alexandria had not one, but two wonders of a world, its library and its lighthouse.
Yeah, all the beginning said was that the audio might not match with the picture. They never said anything about audio muffling.
So yeah, if there was one thing that Cleopatra enjoyed, were actually her milk baths. Although again, this is one of the sequences that was actually added in the comic. Also, to introduce a bit earlier here, one of the people in their cohort.
Ass's milk.
Yes. And yes, this for some reason is an adaptation that wants to be a musical, and I honest to God, don't really understand why. Because the comic book wasn't. The era of Disney musical was pretty much over. We were smack dab, entered in the dark age of animation at this point. So, no idea what they were doing here.
I mean, I think Disney were still doing musicals even in their dark age.
I don't think these are the worst musical pieces ever made, but still.
I mean, okay, obviously a book can't originally be a musical, so I mean, I don't see anything wrong with the idea.
It just feels out of weird because this is also the only Asterix movie that actually does that. Well, in terms of the animated ones. And yeah, like you said, also because of that, the lion is also played up for comedic purposes.
Yeah, I don't. This wasn't in the book. I don't. This is just the animators just filling for time, I guess.
I
Probably.
wonder if they imply that Caesar gave her the lion as a gift.
No, well, maybe not really. The comics, it was just there. Like
I get the feeling the animators were just wanted to have fun.
I get also the idea that, remember what I mentioned also for the previous movie, that the animation, there was not really much to adapt, so all the things were stretched. So in this case, they just instead compensated by filling it with material that wasn't there. Which again, ultimately turns into what me and Pedro said. This should have been an animated series, not a set of movies.
What are the benefits of a milk bath?
Yeah, like what
you'd
they
be
should have
surprised
done.
with Crystal, go on, Pedro. Sorry.
What the ideal way would be to take us the same approach as the '90s Tintin cartoon.
I get it, didn't have much budget, but Cleopatra was a pioneer in terms of cosmetics, so she believed bathing regularly in milk was actually good for her skin.
Such a waste of milk.
Royalties with them, Dweebs.
Mm-hmm.
If the Queen of the Nile demands it, Dweebs, then the Queen of the Nile gets it.
And what happened to the Queen of the Nile?
Considering we're actually talking to her right now, Dweebs.
I meant, like, how does she meet her end?
Suicide.
Suicide. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, there's also another thing to contend to.
A rival architect.
A rival architect.
Everyone really liked Cleopatra's nose.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a gag which is tied to the creation of the Sphinx.
Yeah, basically it's this kind of thing where Cleopatra was apparently known for having a very gorgeous nose.
Also, if I recall correctly, a potential gag to the classic type of live action movies.
Oh dear. Why did she hire this guy? Was he cheaper?
No idea. No idea.
I get the feeling when Goscinny wrote this, he was just thinking, "Oh, this is just funny," you know. I get the feeling he also wanted to make it like he's the underdog, you know, because everybody likes an underdog story. Obelix.
Very unconventional.
Jeez, it looks like the Beatles threw up all over it.
Well, at least the music is happy about this. Damn.
Yeah, this guy ain't really a good architect, is he?
More like he needs focus.
Sorry, dogmatics, but in Egypt, cats are sacred.
So yeah.
And now that cat statue is no more.
Also, for some reason, this guy in my country's dub was given a German accent. No idea, because in the comic he doesn't have it.
No, that wouldn't even make any sense. Like they're Egyptians. Like.
Ow.
Guess that's one way to give the villain his comeuppance.
Dogmatics. Or
Wah, wah, wah.
Wow.
Could have gone better.
And yeah, this is how the pyramids were built.
Very harsh labor. Thankfully, this was years and years after the whole thing about having, the Jews as slaves. So these are, again, even in the books, these are just actual normal workers, thankfully. If I recall correct, one of the plot points is actually them about unionizing.
Yeah, later on we're actually going to learn that these are not slaves. They're actually...
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, what he said, yeah. And yeah, as you might have already noticed, that's Obelix's catchphrase. These Romans are crazy. These Egyptians are crazy because
that's because in the original French, which thankfully also works for my language, they're essentially parodying what was an insignia of every single a Roman banner, the letters SPQR. In French, they actually play off and say "Son parti romain."
Lunch hour.
Artifice and edifice.
Mm-hmm.
We're not working at the minute, we're eating. Ah, yes, I remember the great ancient Egyptian strike action.
Yes.
I wonder how that ended up.
This is a very common joke that Goscinny loves to make, as he does this all the time with the Romans too. Where the soldiers, or in this case the workers, go on strike because they want to be paid more or have better conditions and shit like that.
As you can see, Dweebs, working conditions never change over the decades for all the people. Like in the case Goscinny were satirizing this kind of thing. Oh. Oh. So yeah, what we're gonna do, the usual Asterix way, cheat via steroids.
Yep. Nothing but good old drugs to solve the problem.
No, Obelix.
They even included now the flashing and the zipping that definitely shows.
Again, you have to remember also, Jova, that while this is the second major adaptation that they got, this was not the second book in the series. This was way a bit more advanced.
Oh yeah, it definitely does show. Although that really just makes me wonder if Julius Caesar really did originally have black hair in the earlier days.
Unlike with and much like with Asterix, the Gaul movie, they do the art style definitely reflects much more Uderz's later work, where it looks much more defined compared to the Gaul movie. Ah yes, and of course, in typical 1960s animated movie fashion, we transition with a fade to black.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, movies still do that sometimes to this day.
Oh, they do. It's just that this was done a lot, especially around this time.
And as we noted, even in some movies, it just feels awkward sometimes. At least there was a bit of a purpose. Sometimes it was used for commercial break, Drova, as well.
Oh, well, yeah, that's definitely obvious.
I don't know.
Obelisk, no cultural appropriation.
The movie is already enough dated outside as it is.
Stop slacking off and put the rock where it's supposed to go.
They're doing it with style.
You're supposed to juggle the bricks.
He's multiplying them.
I mean, not to mention, see, there was never any line in the deal that we couldn't use a magic potion.
Mm-hmm.
So
Caesar definitely wasn't expecting this.
Oh yeah, imagine the love of his life. The love of his life, communing with some of his greatest enemies.
One particular book that was adapted that I really wish was Asterix in the Olympic, because in that one they the Gauls try to compete in the Olympics using the magic potion, but when the people in charge learn that they have a potion that gives them extra strength, they outright go, it's forbidden. Sorry. So it's just one of the first times that they're negated the
It makes sense since they wanted to probably to satirize the deal of doping.
And that one never got a film adaptation.
No,
unfortunately not.
I think it got a live action adaptation.
Oh, did it?
Neat.
I know it because I tend to track a bit the Italian cameos. Yes, they are a recurring thing.
So anyway, yeah, that guy who works for the rival paid them to the bringers of the rocks to throw them to the sea.
So they will not have achievements.
Guys?
I don't know, even when the music was all like
awkward. So yeah, in this case, there you go. The Gauls will actually go south to actually find back the stones.
Well, I don't know. The crocodile sounds a lot better than if one of the in the Atmosphere Khufu DVD board game. One cutscene you get if you lose is basically saying, sometimes the gods just smile, just don't smile on you, and then sometimes they strike you down and rip the living flesh from your bones. But that's another game.
So yeah, that's our journey. Find some rocks.
Well, this is not the book which is one of the missions that they do, because even the book itself is presented as a set of situations that happens while Asterix, Obelix, and Getafix are in Egypt.
I can see why they collected it into a movie as opposed to a TV
and
episode.
Now we have time to have the acid sequence, an entire song about the fact that Obelix enjoy eating. Not even kidding. This is just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and once again, this is not in the book, so it feels like they really want to get that 1 hour runtime somehow.
Okay. I'm curious. Was the acid sequence in the comics?
Nope.
Okay. I think I can see what's going on with this movie. They definitely were testing out, the feature-length quality, as in, again, no, this feels very Disney-esque, because, Disney were still giving off some musicals even in the 60s. My guess is that I think there may be a song or two in later movies, but, I don't think any movie was like a full-on musical like this one afterwards. I wouldn't say it was so much them trying to fill out the runtime, but it was definitely them trying to test the waters and see what would be most popular for a film-going audience, since this was only the second movie, so... Okay, they knew they had a winning formula, but they wanted to see if they could potentially improve it, I guess.
And again, coming from me, mind you, these musical sequences are actually relatively fine, nothing particularly harmful, but again, they just come out of nowhere, and you can tell they were not in the source material. Although this sequence is particularly funny, Cleopatra literally offers her love, but Obelix prefers to eat.
God, man. If Caesar even saw what Obelisk was dreaming there, he'd throw a fit.
Well, it's more of a case of not to worry about.
Not to mention, serious fans knows that Obelix's heart belongs to another.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're referring to what happens in the America film, right?
Yeah, Panacea.
Well, that was the versus Caesar story drove happens before the America one.
Oh, so I guess he has two in his heart then. Which is funny because the versus Caesar movie ends with Asterix pining for her, oddly enough.
Yeah, I mean, the original story of the Legionnaire ends kind of like that, weirdly.
Don't get me wrong, cheese is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us.
Okay, I think okay, two things. One, the song's going on a while, and two, these lyrics don't even make sense. These lyrics aren't even making sense now. It's like either the song or writers originally in French or the translators here just went just nuts as the sequences and just started making up random stuff.
I mean, the lyrics make sense. It's them essentially praising consumables.
Well, you can tell it was originally constructed for the French language, so metrics and everything. So we just had to work with what we had.
I can definitely see stuff that was signaling the Dark Age of animation with this.
Define Dark Ages.
Remember, Dweebs, it's roughly to the point, it roughly started with the death of Walt Disney and ended roughly at the big with Oliver and Company.
And Disney was dead by the time this movie came out, so yeah.
What year was Jungle Book? I forgot.
Jungle Book, I think, came out around this time, actually.
No, I'm pretty sure it was in 1965 or 4. Let me check.
1967.
1967.
1 year
before this.
However, as for Disney's death, let's see.
It was between that and Robin Hood. I know that.
1966.
I thought so. It was earlier, but yeah.
So yeah, if you forgot, nowadays the Sphinx doesn't have a nose, and many people speculate, they made even conspiracy theories about why the Sphinx might not have a nose, but it has a bit of a charm, so in this case, it was Obelix, of course.
There you go.
Ruining cultural monuments.
Is one of those theories potentially that Cleopatra was paranoid that that these statues might have a better looking nose than hers, so she'll be more knocked off?
Yes.
Yes.
You also have to remember one thing about Cleopatra. She was technically not properly native of Egypt because she was descendant of the line of Ptolemaeus, which was one of the generals of Alexander the Great as in Macedon. And they established themselves in Egypt after Alexander conquered it.
For those who don't know, Alexander the Great conquered enough stuff that he was simultaneously a pharaoh at some point, ruler of Greece,
the Persian Empire,
and the Persian Empire. I forget if
it went into India. But the point being, Cleopatra also came from a lineage of people of inbreeders. They were basically the Habsburg of the time. So there was a very good chance that her nose was not as pretty as depicted here.
Okay, on one hand, so far from seeing this movie, on one hand, yes, it's easy to tell that unlike the last movie, which was directed by Ray Goossens and Guccini and Uderzo had little to nothing to do with it, this film was directed by the pair.
Mm-hmm.
Neat.
Yes, it's very flashy, but then there was that weird thing with the song.
Oh, yeah, let's do some tourism around the pyramids. Problem is, don't lose yourself in your guide because pyramids are labyrinth.
I'm sure this guy is perfectly trustworthy.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, apparently in France, this movie's so popular they air it like
Yeah.
they air it like a couple of times a year.
Like
Huh.
I
I'd be
said,
surprised. Also,
Santa Claus.
Asterix is the, not just a, the cartoon franchise of France. There's like they're one of their
Mickey
most
Mouse.
beloved properties. Yeah.
Don't they
So
also have
it's
Lucky
like
Luke?
so it's
Lucky Luke
like
is Belgian.
it's like around
right.
it's like around here they air the snowman every year.
Although Jova, to be honest, when it comes to Belgium,
Oh, there you go.
they're. Oh, I don't think they're Belgium. I think it's more the
Alright.
Netherlands. So, forget what I was saying.
So now in our attempt to escape, believe it or not, we're about to do series history.
Yep. Gasp.
Oh boy.
See, the company's even put in the drum roll and everything.
Mate, just drink the potion before he changes his mind.
Not like they have many options.
Well, still not too much, just a few sips. There
Yep.
you go.
Oh, in this one, it's even just one.
Wait a minute. He didn't do the whole flashy
Don't push
zippy
your-
animation thing that usually happens when you
Yeah.
drink the potion.
Don't push your luck, Obelix. Sorry, Joe, we had to cut corners.
In the comic book, it's specifically stated that because they thought that the doors were too reinforced even for normal size. Also, very useful map. Where does this
Egyptians
come from? Where does this come from? One of the old Thief games?
basically, if you think it's just a fictional thing that Asian societies love to trap all their stuff, oh no. The Egyptians absolutely loved making death traps out of their funeral homes.
Hollywood has romanticized this maybe a bit too much over the decades, but yes, pyramids were literally built to not allow grave robbings.
Where are you?
How Guccini and Uderzo didn't even know that they were making the gore until like a few months before it came out. They weren't happy about it, and so they wanted to make this film.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder
Actually,
if maybe
there's
that's part
much
of why
like-
the first film also felt like, it was a bit different in that regard.
Yeah, much like Charles Schultz, who wrote the Peanut specials himself. Like, Uderzo and Goscinny liked to get involved in the adaptations.
Also, Pedro, it's a good point, actually. I think another influence this may be taking from is Scooby-Doo, which was the Hanna-Barbera property. Oh yeah, don't get me
Well,
wrong.
obviously.
Hanna-Barbera has other popular stuff, like you got your Flintstones, you got your Yogi Bears, you got your Jetsons, but Scooby-Doo is pretty much their Spider-Man. Like, Scooby-Doo is easily the big...
So that's just factual at this point.
There were a lot of things that were influenced by Scooby-Doo. Heck, even Hanna-Barbera kind of stole from themselves on Scooby-Doo, so...
Jova, practically ever since Scooby-Doo blew up, they themselves made a shit ton of Scooby-Doo clones.
Oh, that's why I said even Hanna-Barbera stole from themselves.
Yeah. Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, Hanna-Barbera, the only company that can rip itself off.
Yeah. There we go.
This guy's line delivery is just weird.
Yeah.
We must stop them somehow. I am acting. I go down on my words and go back up again.
I'm genuinely wondering if the actor got any direction.
So yeah, in another thing that wasn't in the book, we have the pirates again. In this case, hired to stop them from go back to the Nile.
Of course, he's one of those posers who fakes losing an eye.
It's cool, I guess.
So what are the pirates going to do this time, though, that could possibly give them an edge, given what happened last time? Well, speak of the devil. They had no idea it was the gulls they were going after. Yep. He's catching up to them while pulling a ship full of stones.
Normal Tuesday.
And he sank the ship on top of that.
On the Nile, which is not really that deep.
Well, Theo, do you have something in Latin to say like they usually say when they get sunk?
Well, not really Latin, because the pirates instead were a more homogeneous group.
They sunk us.
Well, but remember, in the iconic pirates, the old one always says some kind of random Latin thing whenever they sink. So...
Even his laugh is weird.
Honestly,
but I could laugh.
Honestly, he sounds relatively fine as far as 60s villains go.
The rival decides to prepare a poison cake to deliver with arsenic, I think, to deliver to Cleopatra. So the architect would be actually blamed for that. So fair enough, right? In here, they decide to up the ante because in the original comic, the cake contained only arsenic, and that was kind of it. In here, we're gonna have an entire musical number about what is inside it.
Oh, cool. Villain song.
Sorta.
Were any of the Asterix, was any Asterix story a musical?
Well,
not really.
Okay. From what I've seen, some later ones do have songs, but they never go full musical.
The other example that we had was in 12 Tasks, where we do get the sequence where with the priestesses on the island, but that did not have lyrics. It was just a random dance number.
I'm not entirely sure why, because from what Tio mentioned, this movie is beloved, so I'm not sure why they abandoned the style. Maybe it was just something they wanted strictly for this movie because... This is great.
I mean, at least this song has something to do with the movie.
Well, again, technically the songs have had to do with the movie, even the big-lipped alligator nonsense with the food. It's just very tangential. I mean, again, this could be a bit of a Scooby-Dooism because some Scooby-Doo episodes did work in the song and dance stuff, although mostly those were, playing classical or popular tunes to the chase music, which also worked out well.
It's also worth noting that in the original French, it's supposed to be a pudding instead of a proper cake, but...
I look forward to seeing this plan spectacularly backfire. Well, that's certainly a plan.
Poison them by tricking them into eating tainted cakes.
No, the idea is to poison the queen.
This adaptation gave us already a sneak peek of the fact that Cleopatra is actually preventive as a ruler. She doesn't just blindly go and take stuff, blindly. She has a taster. There you go.
Don't eat it now.
Well, that's his job, Dweebs. Well, for being super spiked, he's actually doing fine.
Yeah, he can talk. He can talk pretty well. Oh, I'm being poisoned. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Thankfully, this seems to have just given him a bad stomach ache.
Damn.
Antidotes?
Of course, being a druid and everything, Getafix tends to have at your current stuff like that.
I'll have this bay here.
Oh.
Well,
Excuse
to be
me.
fair, he did warn him. He was warned. He said, "Step out, we're leaving." So
Yeah, he's just the guard didn't listen.
Dun, 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 dun.
I mean, he knocked them over and then he probably crushed the guards to death.
No, Cleopatra, this isn't your moment to die yet, and you don't even have the poisonous snake.
Again, the entire joke is that she's way too melodramatic. Right, 3 pieces.
1, 2.
Dun, dun, dun. Wow.
Wait, but that looks like you only cut
Yeah,
one
he did
slice.
cut 3
Technically, there are
pieces.
3 pieces, Dweebs. He never
What?
specified the size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, but the whole, the slice hole in that cake looked like you only cut one slice. How small? How small did he make those other slices? The dick. Ray!
Hooray.
Huh, that was super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Oh, really? You know, I wonder if the French equivalent of Screen Rant has a pitch meeting video.
I don't know. Hi.
Dun, 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 dun. I just wish that you, every time you entered a room of people, there would be some kind of music going dun 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 dun.
Also, I think the composer's going a bit nuts on his
On the piano. The counter keyboard.
Boo.
It sounds like he's starting to score a 1920 silent film. Like,
I wonder if they wanted to homage the Abbott and Costello meets the Mummy.
yeah, probably. Yeah. Ah, get it? A sarcophagus. That's a refrigerator.
Yeah,
Funny.
I've seen a couple of those silent films, but they're scored in like the year 2000 or something, and they have more modern sounding music.
So yeah, now we're to work.
I love how her lips started moving before the voice acting came in.
Again, I get the idea they're still running on the initial joke.
Oh, so I guess we're doing with Caesar for the last act of the film.
Basically, which makes sense.
Well, Caesar is the villain of the franchise.
In the original comic book, the spy was just a normal, normal Egyptian that was just infiltrating. Here, we do this whole camouflage thing.
The animators, again, the animators really wanted to have fun.
Also, in my country, they actually gave him a name, which is a parody of 007.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that design makes it look more like a tennis player. Getafix. Wow, the guy who gives them potions that they love having.
That's the entire
I literally joked about that in the Asterix the Gaul film commentary.
Another movie-exclusive thing, these three guys, because instead what Caesar does in the comic is straight up going on the attack, which you will see at the end of the movie.
I guess he wants to try and handle this more diplomatically, not give Cleopatra the idea that he's trying to sabotage her project.
I said Jupiter, not Osiris.
Different
sure
cultures, different
Egyptian.
religions.
Yeah.
I'd imagine the Roman Empire wouldn't give two hoots what culture you are. You're either their culture or your...
As we mentioned in the past, when they came to the region, yes, they did, because they did not want to go into problems with foreign deities.
And again, the fact that the two leaders were banging probably gave them the inclination, all right, you do you, we'll do this.
Well, this also was a thing also for all other cultures. Again, this is, if you actually read the Bible, that's actually the situation where Israel is by the time of Jesus. Oh.
Damn.
Realistic.
Wow. So much for family, Dom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the third time this week. If there one thing that consistently the fact that the ghosts should actually put Getafix under more protection, which is actually what happens during the book of the goths. Still doesn't manage to work, but at least they tried there.
The book of the what now?
Asterix and the Goths.
Asterix?
Which is essentially Asterix goes to Germany.
Huh. It's an interesting name for Germans, Goths.
Well, that was the barbaric tribes that were actually living in Central Eastern Europe, in different actual flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least they don't seem to have a grudge for what he did.
That's nice.
All that talking is just putting over people.
Yeah, if it couldn't stop Jesus, it couldn't stop them. Okay, thanks for addressing the audience there, Caesar.
Sometimes it happens.
Basically, Jova, there's one of my favorite books that also never got adapted, where both Asterix and Obelix are at a loss of what to do next. Because they need to get money. And hey Asterix, why don't we just tell them our adventures? That could be a way for the people to throw us coins. That will never work. Well, we could call them the Adventures of Obelix the Gaul. Get it? Get it?
Yeah.
So yeah, what is actually also in the book, the final showdown is essentially Caesar saying, "Okay, that's enough," and sending an entire actual army trying to destroy the place.
Asterix's face animation.
That's an army, all right.
What a silly idea! To make a shit ton of money by telling stories about two French people defeating Romans. That's just silly.
Sure hope you have stones to spare for the building afterwards.
Well, they're just gonna recycle them.
Dun, 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 dun. More turtles.
An obvious repeated animation there.
The thing is that they're effective against the arrows, and not so much as stone blocks. Yeah, that happens.
Those stone blocks are way too hard and heavy.
As you can imagine, they had to work around when siege weapons were invented.
Seriously, these repeated animations.
We're running out of money by this point, Joe.
Yeah, that's another running gag with the Legionnaires. When they get beaten up, they said, "Oh, join the army." They said it will be fun. They said,
yeah.
Punch.
Well, remember too, they did that in the '95 Mortal Kombat movie with Johnny Cage. A good tournament, he said. Be good for the career, he said.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, I remember this joke. I guess that works.
That's a bit more problematic if they hit the palace.
Especially since it's not done being built.
All that hard work.
Well, crud,
Yeah.
they're good at aiming.
But no man is fast enough to go.
Yeah, this is one of those bits where they decide to ask Cleopatra for help. Which, don't get me wrong, that's nice, but I'm pretty confident Obelix could easily destroy those machines.
Well, okay, there's actually two reasons why they want to use Cleopatra instead. One, Obelix can still be pretty destructive. That could make a bad situation potentially worse in terms of building it. And two, it's probably best Cleopatra knows, because even if they did per se beat the Roman army, that's not even telling how much the Roman army has to throw at them, there still is the bout of the looming time limit with the building. This way, Cleopatra would
send a message to Cleopatra and telling Caesar to knock it off.
This also
deeply fair.
This also helps because this also will have Cleopatra know that they're not trying to pull the wool over her eyes.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the very least, that'll give the architect a good berth for an extension.
And what better way to convince Cleopatra by sending a dog her?
Which is weird because obviously Cleopatra prefers cats.
Oh, who knows? Maybe she had a soft spot for dogs. She definitely had a thing for snakes. To the very end.
Oh, please get over yourself. Not everything is about somebody trying to kill you.
She's a pharaoh. They were obsessed with death.
Oh.
Yeah, they felt they were Egyptian gods walking the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that particular voice actor had a sore throat when he recorded that line.
Breaking in!
I think that I remember in the live action version during this sequence they actually make a Star Wars joke by the Centurion's element from the back looking the one of Darth Vader.
Oh, so they made a live action version of the Cleopatra arc.
Yeah, again, like you said, it's one of the more important story, and the live action version with who else? Monica Bellucci as Cleopatra.
Ah.
Of course.
Shut up, me. She's beautiful. Again, Caesar gets whipped a lot.
I need to get smoother turning on this thing.
Well, it is a gigantic Sphinx throne.
I like this punchline here between Caesar and the Centurion. Exactly. Again, the Centurion literally just heard Cleopatra and he still felt the need to ask Caesar. Like the conquerors of most of Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Like.
Did the Romans ever succeed in conquering any part of Africa?
Well, technically speaking, only Egypt and part of the northern coast, particularly Carthage. But that took a long while, and they also got a lot of risk.
Good old cost.
Jesus, this narrator must be fun at parties.
So yeah, even in the book it happens. We essentially just keep to the point where the palace is built because they had no more troubles after that. Mm-hmm. In the book, they also throw an extra joke by having Asterix teasing to ask a gaul in case of extra help, which would be basically a reference to the fact that the Suez Canal was actually designed by a French person. So there is that. So yeah, despite everything, Caesar once again recognizes to be a sport about it. Again, that's the interesting thing. Caesar is both this Machiavellic evil dickhead, but a lot of times he actually is a person that wants to prioritize keeping his word.
Not just that, like he's a genuinely good loser, surprisingly, as we see in plenty of the books.
Gotta lose some to win some.
Remember when we did the arcade game where we defeated Caesar at the Colosseum, and he even said, "I promise never to attack your village anymore."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he held us in the bargain.
Well, again, outside of the Asterix versus Caesar movie,
so yeah,
they have been
consistent.
consistent.
Yeah, there you go. You got a sneak peek. But yes, even in the book they mentioned that the architect and his rival even actually placate their rivalry at the end of the book. They actually become friends.
Oh, look, everyone's got together.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crocodiles don't get to eat.
And yes, those signs that you see on the poster were actually identical to the swearing censorship they used in the comics.
Yep.
Oh, now we're in Bambi.
The birds are singing.
That's because
Isn't
of the
it
passing of
beautiful?
season. They left in winter, instead they arrive in spring.
Let's sing
And yes, the bar gets gagged.
La, 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 tweet,
Mhm.
tweet, tweet.
And yeah, we end with the
Anyway,
same panel.
here's the
from
actual
comic.
panel from the comic, yeah.
Cute.
Mine, the one on my end's in French even.
Yeah, they're the
Yes.
same.
It's the same thing here, yeah.
Were these
There you
movies
go.
like...
every comic ends with this exact drawing.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, were these movies made in dub before the comics were brought overseas?
That I do not know, because I can tell you that in my country the comics were translated very quickly, relatively quickly compared. So I don't know how much it took. I know for a fact that America has some knowledge, at least in the 80s, because one particular issue of Action Comics is a story where Superman and Jimmy also travel back in time, but more on that later. For the time being, Lives, your final thoughts.
Yeah, aside from that weird song in the middle, this is definitely a better movie than the last one. It helps that the original creators were involved, and also they could translate their skill at writing comics to directing animated films.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the music is a slight, a little bit of a downgrade from the last one. Like, there's not a whole lot of memorable tracks aside from the ones he already made last time. I did enjoy the characters, even the douchier ones. Anything else?
The one thing Goscinny knows how to do is create characters that are simple but very fun to enjoy.
I've also voice acting, Lives.
Yeah.
It's fine, although there were those weird bits where I couldn't really understand what they were saying without subtitles because they sounded really, really muffled. But it's like the recording in like the smallest room you could possibly conceive. Yeah, that's it then, really. It is interesting. It's interesting how I can still. I think I'm guessing I'm the prime example. Also, Jova, I guess, is that me and Jova at least are the Asterix newbies.
Yeah.
Like we haven't. I haven't read any. I haven't read any of the comics. Have you?
Okay, no, I haven't read the comics. I have seen some of the movies ahead of commentary time. Some bits here and there, but no, I am still relatively fresh to Asterix. I still need to check out the live-action movies. They look interesting.
So, all in all, I really enjoyed this this film, and I'm looking forward to other ones. Was it only this film that the two guys directed, or did they make other ones?
No, they made others. After
Okay.
In the meantime, Jova, I'm trying to find U.S. release date for this comic. I'm not finding anything. It only has the original 1965 year. I don't know if it was released on that same year or not, but I can't find direct specific information on the U.S. release of the book.
We do know for a fact that it is translated. It was saying before.
Oh yeah, it is. There is an English translation, so I'm pretty sure it was. I just can't find the actual date.
Let me see.
And again, Jova, like I said, there's these stories in the 80s that it's really cute about Jimmy Olsen and Superman traveling back in time. And you can tell that it's basically a giant love letter to Asterix because they use characters without having to cover their faces, but it's pretty much a given that it's them, that they're actually interacting, because Jimmy gets to wear Asterix clothes, Superman gets to had to fight standing for Obelix, and at some point, a very cloaked-in Getafix, complete with his nose and everything, has to teach the secret of a magic potion in order to help Jimmy and Soups going back to their own time. It's really cute as an issue.
It may have been that the Asterix comics may have only recently actually come to America, since the most recent thing I've been able to find is about an announcement of the classic comics coming in 2020. Like, so I'm wondering if, the comics really were just not officially brought over to America until 2020?
It might be possible, but it still would be weird, even for importing the British copies. Since not much of a difference that would be.
It is very weird. Sometimes companies do be odd like that.
But anyway, while you're ready, Jova, what about your final thoughts?
Oh yeah, no, I actually really liked this movie. It's a good improvement over the first one. I mean, obviously, sure. But hey, it's nice to see how we deal with Cleopatra, the love of Caesar's life. It has a good amount of challenges, or attempted challenges, because, let's be honest, in typical gaul fashion, our heroes kind of steamroll through everything. I'll admit, it felt like they had a bit more challenge in the first film, funnily enough. This one, well, hey, we got to see Obelix finally have the potion, although, again, it surprisingly wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, because, again, in this one, he just busts down a few doors, but, what you gonna do? I actually got a kick out of the songs. The villain song was definitely the best, though. And the villains, antagonists, were all entertaining. This movie in general is good and entertaining. It might drag a bit, but honestly, okay, look, it is definitely not down to the level of the Caesar film. Honestly, I still had legit fun with this one. And I didn't really feel the dragging, aside from the one big lipped alligator moment with the food song. And again, like I said, the singing is still fine, as far as 60s films go. And yeah, no, it's a good time. It has, warts and all, but I'd say it works with those.
Pedro?
Oh, it's great. Again, this is one of my favorite Asterix comics, and the adaptation is solid. I do think it's this new material that they include is weird. I can understand the villain song being here, but that whole big lip alligator moment with Obelix I feel like was just it feels like they had to put something in here to get this to a 1 hour runtime. But whatever. Fortunately, when they're doing the actual book stuff, everything is done exactly as you'd expect, so no issues there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the music is still a lot of fun because it's so over the top. The art style is much more refined in here. It looks much more like what is the contemporary look for these characters. So yeah, great.
All right, I'll conclude. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I'm done. Go on.
All right, I'll conclude. Again, you can tell why this is a classic for many Asterix fans, because it's a story that contains a bunch of micro stories, and they get to see different locales of our exotic country. The more unfortunate facts are more the designs, which has aged over the years, as noted, but also forgot about how the flashing can be obnoxious. But the live action version, if I recall correctly, does more justice to that, so don't worry. But aside from that, as a story, it's perfectly serviceable. Again, it showcases how simple the formula is of Asterix and Obelix go to a different country, to solve their problems or their own, and they just have to come across that, So yeah, maybe hunt down the book if you can, because also that is a good time. The musicals are a bit out of place, and I have to admit, the songs are fine, like I said, but nothing that I would have, screamed to keep included at all costs. Like I could have easily lived without them. But that's kind of it. As we mentioned, we already covered we covered all the movies from the 70s, if I recall correctly. We're only technically 3 remaining before the more recent one. So we have the Big Fight, which is my most dreaded, the America one, and the Vikings one, which are those 2 are technically the more recent before the CGI move.
So we really just have only those 2 left of the classic movies? Wow.
Yeah, like I said, there weren't many in these, which is baffling because how many stories were there to adapt.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we'll see what will happen next.
See ya.
See ya.